Really interesting content today. So I will put our usual forum decorum. And we'll just wait maybe 2 more minutes and then we'll get going.
So it's being recorded, yeah?
Yep. Okay. Are you looking on your best? Lipstick
No.
on?
I did actually put my lipstick on just before I came on here, but
Me
that's
too.
all.
I'm feeling self-conscious now. I didn't put on any lipstick.
But you know, we are always with the mask, so we don't think about it.
That's right. It just comes off immediately.
Exactly. So no way makeup. So the only thing you can do is now in front of the. That's it.
And I found I was getting really dry skin all around here when I started wearing the mask. I've had to start putting on almost a dedicated moisturizer every day because it's gone so dry.
True.
Okay, right guys, let's get going. Good afternoon everyone and welcome. You're very welcome to our usual inclusion and well-being forum that we host here every 2 weeks. Our forum decorum today, please, all mics should be muted to ensure that speakers can be heard. If you have a question, please do pop it into the chat and I will monitor the chat and we'll come back to it later on at the end of the session. We always keep our sessions focused on students, so we won't discuss any individual cases as of yet. Industry experts are always welcome. None of this is sponsored, none of it is paid, so please be mindful that it's all voluntary and all free, and we hope to keep it as such for as long as possible. We don't discuss individual cases, as I mentioned, and remember that we're all in the same role as you. So while we are presenting and we are often giving advice and guidance, nobody's an absolute expert. We all learn from each other, and that's where the power of these forums come, where we can share our experiences, share information, and especially information we're gathering from outside so that we can support each other. I'm now going to hand over to Susie, who will introduce our speaker for the day.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for being here. So I have the honor to present Miss Sandra, who actually was an ex-colleague of mine. In 2009, she was asked to come to Dubai to develop the vocational education, which was very much missing at that time. And then she was also a vice principal and then stayed with GEMS for the next 10 years. Since then, she's developed a lot of things, a lot of support. I think that if I can speak a little bit of personal information, as I was developing the inclusion department, it was very nice for my students to really find something that they could. It was really an opportunity for them to see that there is something that we can do to also access university. And it was really a pleasure to work with Miss Sandra, who was really understood and guided through about the pathways that our children would need to take. And I thought that inviting her here would have been just the right thing, as we are always looking for some understanding when we are stuck on what we can do for our children. So Ms. Sandra, since then has developed the Sandra Education Services, and I think today I've just invited her to speak more about what she does so well. Thank you so much, Ms. Sandra.
Okay, thank you very much, Susie, and thank you everybody for coming along. It's lovely to see so many of you. And I will do my best to cover, you know, in the time allocation that we have, I will cover as much as I can, but obviously I'm always open to, you know, additional questions if needs be. Susie has my details as well, so she can always get hold of me if there's anything further she wants that you want to know. But basically, at this stage, it's really going to talk you through how we came to have quite a vibrant vocational department at one stage at Cambridge. We went from no vocational qualifications to about 12, 13 different subjects at one stage, which is quite a breadth actually. So I'm going to let me just get my PowerPoint onto here. Can you see this at this stage? Can you? Oh no, because no, it's okay. I'll. Okay. Just excuse me for a second. Well, and then we'll share. Now, I'm actually used to being able to share and then pull up my PowerPoint, but at the moment, when I've got full screen, it's, let's see if I can do it from here. I should be able to. When I've got full screen, it's not actually showing me my bars at the bottom. So let me just have a quick look. Oh, it's okay. I do apologize for this.
If you would like, Sandra, I can share it from my screen. If you want.
Have you got it to hand? I tell you what's happening, what seems to be happening is when I've actually got full screen of you, okay, it's not showing my icons at the bottom, but when I part screen, it's not showing me the share screen icon.
Okay, I can share it from this side.
Thank you.
And
then I'll give you full.
Just let me know. Okay, can you see this?
Perfect, thank you. Yep.
Let me know when you want me to move forward with
and we'll click through the first one and the second one. Okay. And basically, Susie's told you really about myself, but most of my teaching career has actually been about vocational education. And that's because I didn't start teaching until much later. And I already had tourism degree and was in the tourism industry at the time. So I took a sideways move to go into schools. And that's sometimes even what our students need to do, okay? When I left school, when I was 15, I really, really did not want to stay at school any longer. I thought I knew best and I left school. And it was much later that I decided really what I wanted to do, and therefore had to go about getting my degree, and then I got my master's degree and equipped myself, but it was much later in life. But that's really because I didn't have the options available to me when I was at school. Okay, so I think this is probably why I have a passion to ensure that students now have lots of possibilities, and we need to provide those options as much as we possibly can. So the aims of the session then today is to demystify education, and I'll tell you what I mean by that in a moment, really, and also how we can support students in their careers development from quite an early age, at least. Thank you, Catherine. So what is vocational education? We can call it an alternative way of learning. It's very subject specific content. Okay, so very often it's the fact that it interests the student that gives them the motivation to want to continue, because they're working on something that's specifically in their area of interest. Okay, and therefore it's preparation for a specific career goal. When we study history, we're not studying for any particular vocation. We know that history will help us in a number of vocations, and we know that having a good knowledge of history will help us generally in life, but it's not necessarily for a specific job that we've decided we want to do, okay? Whereas vocational education is, and the work that they do will be centered around that vocation. What is it not? Okay. Now, it's not an alternative to a degree pathway necessarily, okay? and I'll expand on that a little more shortly. But it's not, if you do a BTEC, does not mean you cannot go to university. Okay, this is what I mean by an alternative to a degree pathway. Some people think that is very much the case. It's not a qualification for those that cannot pass A-levels, because vocational qualifications come in all shapes and sizes. Vocational level 3 qualification is equivalent to A-levels. A vocational level 2 qualification is equivalent to GCSEs, grades A to C. And a vocational qualification at level 1 is equivalent to grades D to G in GCSE. Okay, so it's not an alternative. In some cases, it may be, but it is not necessarily. Okay, and it is not only for disengaged students. We don't have to wait for students to become disengaged before we offer these pathways to them. Okay, so it is not just for disengaged students. Thank you, Catherine. Just to give you an idea, I mean, my master's degree is in international tourism development and management. Vocational degree or academic degree? It's a vocational degree, okay? Think about the tourism strategy for Dubai. Okay, I want you to literally think about the strategy for Dubai as a tourism hub in the world. I want you to think about what Dubai is actually doing for tourism. Why are they developing tourism? And what does that mean for the UAE or for Dubai? Okay, it's a huge part of how we exist here and why the country does so well. So what kind of person do you think is heading up this strategy? A disengaged person? Okay, I think you've made the link there. It doesn't have to be a disengaged, struggling person to actually take up a vocational degree. Okay, it takes somebody that's interested in a particular area of work. That's what it takes. Okay, thank you, Catherine. Okay, so a vocational course then. If we think that when we talk about academic programs, we generally think about A-levels, GCSE, IB, although the IB, of course, has a vocational element to it now, a vocational, a separate one for vocational, and other nationalities qualifications. They're academic, it's the theory. The students are in the classroom, they learn the theory, and then one day they will go into the workplace and they will use the theory that they've learnt, not necessarily about that job, but the maths that they've learnt, the ways of working that they've learnt in theory, and they will put that into practice. We do have what we call complete vocational programs, and they really are much more about skills. Okay, so when we talk about skills, the actual doing, so perhaps a bricklaying course where students are laying bricks, and then the assessment of that would usually be to show the student how to complete a particular task, ask them to complete a task, and then sign off when you've watched them complete that task a number of times. Okay. However, there's many other programs, and BTECs, for example, and they're not the only qualification here, but BTECs are the ones that we actually introduced at Cambridge in 2009. BTECs, for example, are really a halfway between a fully vocational program and a theoretical academic program. Okay. In a BTEC or other programs that are similar, what you'll be doing is you're learning the theory in the classroom, Okay, so if I can, as a business teacher, I'm afraid I'm going to give you a business example. We would be learning about marketing, and there's lots of theory surrounding marketing. Okay, the marketing mix, for example. We teach about the marketing mix, but then we go and look at the marketing mix in practice. So we may go to a hotel and ask the manager of the hotel to tell us how he puts in place the marketing mix in his hotel. So students actually look at how it works in practice, okay? And in some cases, they have to do this independently. You know, it's not always possible to take a group to these places, but in most cases, they will look at this theory and then put it into practice to see how that works, okay? And BTECs are predominantly coursework, okay? In some cases and sometimes the courses do have a test element added, but 9 out of 10 of the time they are 100% coursework, okay? Now, this is where, for example, some people may choose a vocational course. Some of our students just go to pieces in exams, okay? They just cannot handle being in exams. It's a, you know, a complete disaster for them. Whilst others, you know, to have coursework, sorry, for those people, it may be better for them to complete coursework on an ongoing basis as they go along. For other students, we actually find that they enjoy exams and they're quite happy to do exams, but keeping up to date with coursework is just too difficult, okay? So, you know, we can't necessarily say that any one student is suitable for one or the other. We have to look at each person individually, okay? But it is sometimes and very often an opportunity for those students that that do go to pieces in exams and cannot just memorize dates and details to go into an exam. This is very often an opportunity to help them with that, okay? Now, the good thing is with these is that we do have them in different levels, okay? And very often the level is more about the outcome rather than the input, okay? So it can be, and you have to be careful and really think this through in your school, but it can be possible to teach students in one class, whether they be a level 2 or a level 1, for example. So if you have students that are completing a BTEC in years 10 and 11, okay, and they're struggling on the level 2, which is equivalent to GCSEs, it may be better to drop them to a level 1, okay, and give the opportunity for them to complete something and be successful at something, okay. The other thing that's been done in the past is to consider, instead of having the course, the level 1 elongated through an entire year or 2 years, but to perhaps do a level 1 in year 10 and go on to certain units of a level 2 in year 11, okay? The beauty of getting students to have an outcome quite early is that it motivates them. So it may even be that you think they're not quite ready for level 2, but you want to do a couple of units of level 1 at the very beginning of year 10. And this is what's going to give them the confidence and the motivation to take that further, okay? I'll tell you a story about a girl at Cambridge whose wedding I went to, incidentally, about a year ago. But she was the very, very first student I interviewed when I went to Cambridge. And the head teacher at the time, the principal at the time, said to me, you can interview XYZ person. And if you feel that she can manage, then we'll take her, but she doesn't have the grades for staying on into our sixth form generally. She doesn't even have the grades that we had set for the BTECs, but speak to her and see what you think. So I spoke to her, and she only just about missed the grades. I think she had a couple of Ds where she needed Cs, or maybe an E where she needed Cs. And I felt that she had she had a good chance of actually coming through. So we took her on. She absolutely thrived. I've never seen anyone have such a huge turnaround as this girl. And when we were doing marketing assignments for her business studies course, we were linking up with hotels. She actually came into school one day, I kid you not, with a mannequin under her arm. You know, the mannequins that you clothe? A mannequin under her arm, because it was part of the promotion that she was planning for the hotel that we'd been to. And she was so into this promotion that she'd gone out, she'd found a mannequin, and she was going to be doing everything she needed to do to turn this into a promotion for the hotel. And at that time, I did manage to get some prizes for some of the students from the hotels for actually giving them the information that had come from our students. But more importantly than that, she thrived, and she did a complete about turn, and she achieved a distinction grade in her BTEC, which was equivalent to A stars in A level. Okay. As a result of that, she was given a scholarship, 100% scholarship, to go to Middlesex University. And so she did that. She's since became a teacher. She's doing all sorts. She's absolutely doing amazingly. But it really just came about by finding something that she was interested in. And something that, instead of learning facts and figures and detail in the classroom, she was able to get out and be more creative. Okay, so you know, she could have been turned away from our doors. At that time in particular, I really don't know where she would have gone. And there was really no other alternatives. We were the best alternative at that time. So sometimes it's these students that we can target. And as I say, sometimes it's those level 1, level 2 students that are perhaps not quite ready, but if they do a level 1 and they build their motivation, then they can be ready for this kind of study as well. Okay. Thank you, Catherine. Okay, and from the Classroom magazine, one of the benefits of vocational training is that you can jump right into the class that speak to your career passions. So you've decided you want to have a business. So all of a sudden you're using all the terminology of business. Okay, you want to be in the tourism industry. All of a sudden you're speaking hotels and tourist attractions and marketing. Yeah. And you know, there are so many other subjects. There is actually a vocational science. Okay, we had vocational sport. We had business, IT. We had media. We had performing arts. There are huge range. Okay, so it's finding the passions of those students and allowing them to express those through a form of study. Okay, thank you, Catherine. There was a time when really vocational education was kind of looked down upon a bit, and I'm afraid to say it still happens a little bit. Okay, but you know, these are a couple of news articles here, and the next slide are just news articles that say that, you know, things are changing. Private schools back in the UK who wouldn't even dream at one stage of vocational education are realizing that it is a good way forward, and there is nothing wrong with a vocational education. It's probably better. It's probably better for those students that know what they want to do and what they want to be. In some cases, it's better. And I have to say that Chelsea, when she moved into a university, used to report back to me on how everyone would say to her they were amazed at her research skills. Okay, because this coursework is all about independence and researching and investigating and all of those skills. And they were doing them from from an early age. They were doing them from year 9 and 10. So by the time they were at university, it wasn't something new to them. Okay, we were even referencing things. So they'd even understood how to reference things by the time they got to university. And so in that respect, they were leaps and bounds ahead of their colleagues, their peers. Thank you, Catherine. And this is just another one. So A-level reforms trigger rise in private schools' practical courses. We all like practical things. I do. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the benefits of vocational education, we've spoken about some of those, but if I want to go back with my vice principal head on, then I would start to think about the benefits as far as the KHDA is concerned. You look through section 4 about the broader curriculum, about having a curriculum that matches the students we have, and about adaptation, curriculum adaptation. Section 4 is all about this. And we, by having a broad curriculum, and in each of those schools where we had a broad vocational offering, we did well in vocational, the curriculum section 4. Okay. I think we've just seen that, students have a better chance of success if they are interested in what they're doing and they're not forced. So the broader the choice, then the more likely it is that it's what the student wanted. Okay. And I mean, I always say to students, even in terms of achieving as much as they can, if we choose, once we've got all of our qualifications, if we choose to go and work in McDonald's, then that's absolutely fine, but we choose it, okay? But if we're told that's all you can do, it's a very different picture, okay? And poor McDonald's always gets the bad press on that one, probably, right? But it can be any of those. If we're told where we've got to work because we don't have a lot of options, it's very different from deciding that we want to work there anyway. Okay. And skills development. I've already mentioned to you about how Chelsea is her name. How Chelsea went to university and she found that she'd really developed these skills. When I first came to Cambridge, I was asked to be there because I'd taught on vocational and I'd ran vocational departments. But it's really about the skills more than the subject. And what had happened is they said they've tried to offer vocational, but nobody wants to know. And I said, but have you told people about the skills? Because by that time, the whole world was talking about skills. I mean, 11 years ago, they still are indeed, but 11 years ago even, everyone was talking about skills and the 21st century skills, and we called it all sorts of names under the sun, but it was all about skills development. And I'd already by that time seen the presentation Shift Happens. And I'm sure most of you have seen that presentation at some stage, and it gets updated every year. But it really emphasizes the point that the world that we're now living in is not about knowledge, okay? Knowledge is important, but it's not all about knowledge. We can find anything we need to do, anything we need to find out is basically on our phone or on our laptop, okay? Knowing how to do that, knowing how to sort and sift through that information, knowing how to ensure that that information is valid, they are the skills that we need, okay? We don't need the actual knowledge, we can find that. We need to know how to go about it. We need to know how to mix with other people. We need to know how to work collaboratively with them. We need to know how to work on our own initiative, especially now that many people are working from home and they are on their own, okay, working. We need to have those skills, okay? So I set about open days and parents' evenings, talking to people really about skills and telling them, look, we're going to be doing this from year 9. Okay, we're going to be offering these qualifications from year 9. It almost doesn't matter which subject your son or daughter chooses, okay? But if they choose one, they will develop some very good skills, okay? It almost didn't matter which subject, because the skills they would get would be the same across the board, okay? And that's how passionate I feel about the skill development in many of the vocational qualifications, okay? It's the skills, it's all important. Thank you, Catherine. Okay, so what are the challenges for schools? If you're thinking, okay, we need to do this. Training, it is a different way of working for teachers. It was a challenge. It was a challenge for me to ensure that our teachers were teaching in this new way. And I understand that, because in most cases, when many of us, particularly the older people amongst you, or when many of us were at school, we definitely had a teacher speaking to us from the front of the classroom, and that was it, okay? So we believe in our minds that this is what a teacher does, and the teacher has to have all the answers, and the teacher has to have all the questions, and the teacher has to know everything, and they lead the show. But with vocational and when you're providing BTEC qualifications and similar qualifications, that's not the case. You know, encourage your students to say, actually, miss, we don't like doing it like this. We prefer to learn how you taught us the other week. Can we do it like that? That's fine, yeah? And to not take offense at that. We mustn't take those kinds of things personally, and we should seek for our students to take part in those lessons and to be a part of how we run those lessons, okay? But that's difficult. So for the teachers, I really found it difficult. I would go in to see how our teachers were doing, and there they were at the front, trying to tell the students exactly what marketing is and how you do it, and you have to do this and do this and do this and do this. But really what it needs is, okay, here's a little starter. There's something to whet your appetite. Now I want you to find out this, and this. I'm around. I'm coming around. I'll be in constant touch with you as we work, but you're finding it out. And then gradually they get better and better and better. And the students are amazing. You know, they research and they come up with their assignments. Okay. So one of the challenges is the teachers. The teachers find it very difficult, and they feel as though they're not doing their job properly if they're not standing at the front and giving all the information. Okay. It does require an approval process, okay, for whichever board you decide to run with. There will be an approval process, just like there is with GCSEs, etc. But the approval process for vocational usually requires that there is some expertise within the teaching staff that have been in that area of work. Okay, either in that area of work or linked to it in some way. They have to show how they will make those courses vocational, and instead of, and not, for example, delivering a sport BTEC as they would a PE GCSE. Okay, they're different. Okay, and they need to feel very comfortable that they have people with work experience where possible. In fact, what I did when I was going through the approval process at first, some of the staff that were going to be teaching on some of our BTECs, we actually arranged some work experience for them. Okay, so I even when we were going to start science, I arranged for a couple of the members of staff to go out to laboratories and do a couple of weeks of work experience, literally. Okay, so that instead of being in the classroom telling them how to mix this with this, what they were doing is actually telling them what opportunities would be available for these students once they had learnt and once they had mastered this science BTEC. Okay, they were able to tell them what goes on in the workplace and what opportunities are available to them. Because let's face it, many of our teachers have come from school to university and back into school. So they don't always have actual, what I would call, work experience. Okay, so that's something you may want to consider, is how will you get that? Perhaps have a link. You know, there is a requirement on all companies for CSR, okay, corporate responsibility. Now, it may be that you could link with a company, they will fulfill their CSR responsibility, and you may have access into this workplace so that you can gather more and more information to present to your children and students, okay? There is, of course, a registration fee to register as a centre, but you'll find that with any other exam board anyway. You would normally have to have a quality nominee. That quality nominee can be a full-time person or a part-time person, but they are responsible for the quality of the programs, okay? And the quality of the programs is assessed by the teacher, will mark the work and assess the work. So it's coursework. There is a lot of coursework for BTEC teachers or for other coursework teachers. So you've got that marking to do, okay? There's then there has to be an internal verification procedure. So you need at least 2 people that are assessors for each of the subjects so that they can internally verify each other's work, okay? And then you have an external verifier, so somebody that will come from outside, from the exam board themselves, and they will do a random sampling of the work that's been marked and internally verified to check that the standards meet all of the criteria. Okay, so that's really important, that you would be aware that those processes have to be in place. Okay, and this is for any kind of coursework. You will always get some kind of external verification. Okay, parent perceptions. I've written parent perceptions here, but I've kind of spoken about that. Parent perception, for some reason, parents, they know A-levels, they love A-levels, they know GCSEs, they love them, and it's very difficult to change the mindset. But I think once you show the emphasis that governments around the world, not just here, around the world, are putting on skills development and the reasons why, and how these vocational qualifications do address this skills development, then you can change the mindset and perception of parents. Okay, so that is predominantly how you would change that perception of parents, is by really, really pushing home this idea of skills. Okay. Now, I'm very conscious of what some of the students that we may be wanting to help could be struggling with normal study. Okay, so I think some of the main things that we need to take on board here is that this is not for students that really cannot manage and for with an assistant can complete the work. We do have to be very careful that this is not something that you know, there still are standards that have to be met, and students have to be able to manage the courses. Okay. However, there is a huge amount of opportunity for those students that are just not quite making it and are not looking to be successful in other qualifications. So a level 2 that I said was from A to C, for example, equivalent to GCSEs. If you've got students that are really looking at getting Ds, Es, Fs maybe, you may well be able to get them a BTEC level 2 that will give them what is equivalent to C and really raise the bar on their motivation. Okay. If you've got students that, you know, they're probably quite bright, but they cannot bear to sit in lessons, they're twitchy, because very often a lot of the students that we come by, it's, you know, it's not that they don't have the ability. In some cases, of course, they have lots and lots of ability. We're not stretching them enough, or we're not interesting them enough. And therefore they become students that sometimes people think don't have the ability. Okay, we all know that that's the circle there. But if we can offer alternatives to these students and get their interest, then at least we will get the best of their ability from them, whatever that may be. At least it will be their best. And we can't really, you know, wish for better than their best. Okay, so that's really what I've put together in terms of vocational. Okay, I think if you're able to go on to the next slide, please, Catherine. Okay, the second part of what we were going to look at was about supporting students. Now, if, for example, I'm not sure if I'll go even through the slides here, but one thing I will say is that if our students have some idea of what they may want to do as a career, then it's going to be far easier for them to engage in a vocational subject. Okay. Now, we all know that, you know, 13 and 14-year-olds, it's very young to start signing your life away to something. And we all know now that the average person will take 14 different career choices in their lifetime, it's said. So we're not looking for them to actually say, this is what I want to be, and then to stay there for the rest of their life. But if they've got some idea on what they would like to do, then we can start to prepare some pathways for them. And preparing those pathways where they have got an interest and they start to develop the language of what they're interested in. Let's say I've met a few students recently that are quite interested in photography. Okay, you know, they can simply start taking photographs, but with a topic and a theme, instead of just taking photographs of their friend, you know, giving them themes and start to interest them. And then they will start to think, yeah, this is something I would like to do, or actually, I thought it was going to be far more interesting than this. So helping them to sort of establish where they need to be is something I've been doing in more recently. And it really helps them to sort of engage. I very often start that with an audit. Okay, and I do say to people that, you know, this is the kind of thing that all schools would do if they had more one-to-one time with students. And we all know that schools are so hard pressed for time on that basis. But I know that most schools will do, say, a skills audit where they look at the skills the students have and they start to map those against the careers that they're interested in. And then we can start to develop those skills. But much of this can be done through vocational programs as well. Okay, I will just say a very quick word on the ASDAN as well. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the ASDAN qualification. That is sort of primarily a level 1, which is a very good qualification. But I think you would need to look at your whole provision that you wanted to put in place before you make those decisions, because otherwise you end up with high fees for all the different exam boards. and perhaps just a few students on each. So you need to look at the whole offering. But the ASDAN is something else that you may want to look for in more detail. The lady was out here a few years ago. I don't know if she comes out on a regular.
Yeah, she comes regularly.
She does, yeah.
Does. At least twice, yeah.
Really, yeah. Okay, so she's around to find out how that compares to, say, a level 1 BTEC. Or I think, I don't know much about them, I must confess, but I do think there's a suite of vocational qualifications that are offered by from Australian curriculum.
Yeah.
So, all of these are worthy of having a look at. I just find them, I enjoy teaching them because I do believe that students get the whole breadth of everything they need to learn, but develop their skills at the same time. So we can go on to, if you can go on to the next slide, but I think it may be more useful for me to take some of the questions at this stage, because I do have a student after this. Okay, so career planning to learn about potential career options, discover the in-demand jobs. I mean, that's very important, looking at the in-demand jobs for these students. What's available. There was, I spoke to a lady from Gleek a while back. I think it was when I was closed out of Dubai earlier in the year. And she was telling me that the most in-demand job at that time, I can't remember, what did they call them now? They called them, they were basically the tracers, okay? And they were basically the people that had to do the tracing when somebody had COVID, okay? And that person had to say, okay, I've actually been in contact with this person, that person. Then there's actually tracers that then had to complete that map and find out who they had been in contact with, who they had been in contact with, and so on. And that at that particular time had become the most in-demand job. Okay, so it's important for students to realize that this is not static, it changes. And so on a fairly regular basis, they need to look and say, okay, what's in demand at the moment? Because it's okay saying, this is what I would love to do and I'm passionate about it. But if it's a dying career, then maybe they need to think twice about that. Okay, and building a CV, to me, 14 is not too early to start looking at that, because what I find happens is that sometimes these students don't have anything to put in their hobbies and interests. And therefore, if they start thinking about it at 14, they can develop a hobby and interest that's going to be impressive to their university and to the workplace. And so they've got something impressive on their CV from there. Okay, so I think it's not too early to start looking at things like that. Okay, I think you probably remember what we set out to try to achieve. And I've just put this back up here again in the hope that people will confirm that they are slightly more demystified about vocational education, and maybe one or two little pointers in terms of career development for 13, 14-year-olds upwards. And I think it's, if you have, I think Catherine's got some questions. They will be different questions to the ones I have here, I think. Yeah?
So, good
on the
afternoon.
chat. Okay, good afternoon.
Hi, everyone. Yes, we have a couple of questions through. So if anyone would like to speak, I see we have someone here, just forum.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm Muhammad Anwar, and I'm from Al Kamal American School, Sharjah, Al Ramsa.
Welcome.
So today, today what happened, like, the lady, Madam Sandra, she's talking the thing of my heart, The thing is, what, nowadays the education, it should be combined with something which is vocational, yes. So once she talked, we have to go with the normal studies, whatever the GCSE, whatever GCSE, IGCSE, these kind of patterns. A student must be given a skill. They have to go for a skill, very recently, one setup is coming like with AP biology. Kind of a vocational education is there with AP curriculum. So really, I would love to see like one of the thing that she mentioned, that is ASDAN. So we would love to see like how can we contact them and how we can get benefit for our kids to have a career counseling. Thank you very much.
Can I just add on that? As you were saying, that what we have done also is that ASDAN came much after BTEC at Cambridge. And we have seen that many of our students who were really challenged and where there was no opportunity, these are my difficult years at Cambridge, where we are just ending with the children who we took them for social reasons and actually have now learned skills to continue into an opportunity later, where parents years ago had no idea of what we could do with them. And some of our students are doing BTEC along ASDAN, and it's just giving them that and they love it. And they're so engaged that, you know, you can mix and match according to what you feel and guide the parents towards the success of the child. And we don't have to go like this, how do you say, set curriculum like GCSEs and all, whatever you say, because it's not for everybody. So it's about us knowing what we are doing in school and to be able to tailor it for our students.
I wish, yes, absolutely. I wish that we had this opportunity, a counselor like Miss Sandra at our time, so we could have got this skill, like some kind of skill we must be having. We should impart this kind of, thing into the parents also, like she very correctly she said, because all the parents, they go for a set pattern. Yes, they don't want to go for the change. So we have to convince parents also, like you have to go for the vocational training. So this is an additional tool, a skill for their kids to prosper in the future. Yes, it was really very, very nice kind of dialogue that and instruction that she has given. Thank you very much, Miss Sandra.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Rami, hi, how are you doing?
How are you, Catherine? Yeah,
I'm well.
Such a long time we did not meet.
Long time, I know. Welcome. Tell us, you have a question?
Thank you. No, it's just a comment now, just to give the credit for ASDAN. Now we are working in something called the First Social Bond here in the UAE, that we are working on few young men and women with intellectual disability and ASD here in Abu Dhabi. We have 26 students now. We've been working with them for the last 10 months, and still we have 2 more to qualify them, okay, with ASDAN curriculum to be prepared for the work market. And now we are reaching to the level that they will start visiting their workplaces soon, okay, and they will sign their contracts for permanent job. It's not sheltered workshops, okay, it's in public places. They will work with public people, okay, including workplace mentor training and all that. We have a qualified person also from ASDAN. He was external moderator and region and director in there, and he works with us. And I think there is also working on accrediting ASDAN here in the UAE with the National Qualification Authority. I guess they're working on that right now.
They're working very hard on that. Yes, you're right.
Yes.
And yes, I believe, or I hope that soon it will be available for everybody here. Okay, it might be included in maybe Ministry of Education, MOE curriculums or standards for people of determination in the UAE. But as someone who experienced ASDAN for the last year, to qualify these students, it's great, and it's giving them skills that they might not be able to learn it from anywhere else. So thanks for that. Thanks for promoting this and bringing this to the desktop.
That really is what success looks like, isn't it? If you've got a student whose opportunities are broadened, that's what you want. And they're working. There's the MAN project in Abu Dhabi at the moment. They're working towards
we are working with MAN. That's the project.
Yeah.
It's called ATMA.
ATMA, yes. Yeah,
Yes.
I've spoken to Kate Macmillan, is highly involved with that, and she's been
Yes.
doing a huge amount of work with it. So inshallah, we will have it accredited. So a question I had for you, Sandra, was in relation to that. How do the BTECs or any of the vocational programs you've worked with go alongside the Sanawiyah?
Go alongside.
The Sanawiyah, the local accreditation, the qualification for graduating secondary school.
Right. Okay. Now, it's a tough one because initially when I came here, they were fully accepted, and we could get those testified every time. Probably about 5 years ago now, there was some change to that. And if students wanted to study in the UAE, they couldn't always get the attestation here. Okay. Now, there's a lot of work being done even as we speak, and I'm actually meeting with someone from the ministry shortly with regards to this. I'm asking the question, and the current situation is that they're still working on it. But I think behind closed door, I think the ministry are working on another vocational qualification that will be primarily for Emirati students. Okay.
Okay, and do you know of much about the vocational options at third level? Like what I know, there's Emirates Aviation do quite a lot through their catering and they've got different vocational schemes.
Yeah.
What other options are there available?
Well, on level 3, well, it was primarily level 3 that we were offering at Cambridge. Actually, we offered in most subjects. So business and IT were the first two. Now, what we used to do, and this is quite important, if you're looking at offering them in the sixth form, then each BTEC can be equivalent to anything from 1 to 3 A levels. Now, you can choose the amount of units that will be equivalent to 1 A level, and therefore put it alongside 3 A levels. You can choose one that will be equivalent to 2 and put it alongside an A level, or you can have two A level BTECs.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you think of them all in units, okay, and in a typical sixth form, we may do 4 options in year 12, and very often narrow that down to 3 in year 13. Okay, so you can do 2 BTECs or a BTEC and an A level. You can mix and match, and that's the area that needs a lot of design. Okay, but looking as well at what actually complements another. So obviously a business and IT seem to go very well together.
Yeah.
Okay, so if students didn't really have the grade, because you can accept slightly lower grades for a BTEC. If in Cambridge, for example, in our science, our maths, they were actually looking at A's to get in and complete. So students with B's, C's, in some cases D's, were able to get onto a BTEC. Now, if they were able to get onto the BTEC, they needed to be able to complete, they needed enough work to give them the whole year's work, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
You couldn't just give them one BTEC if they didn't have the grades to get onto A levels.
Yeah.
That wouldn't utilize their time well enough to do just one 2 A level BTEC. So
Okay.
it's that part that needs quite a lot of working out to make sure you're giving them as many best options. So we, in the end, as I say, we had certainly in level 3 even, we had about 10 different BTECs, and they would run in each of the 4 option blocks. But you just need to work out, okay, which ones complement each other, just like you would with A levels, to make sure you get them in the right options.
Okay, and Renata, we've got Renata joining us from Cedra down here in Abu Dhabi, which is a centre. I'll let you introduce yourself, Renata. You've got some options for young adults as well as they graduate.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's
Good
such a fascinating discussions we are having this afternoon. And I also would like to congratulate the APMA project for young Emiratis. I know there's one participant joining the program who had previously joined one of our vocational training programs. So I know it's a huge success, so congratulations on this again. I just wanted to point out, taking from our experiences with private and public organizations, what they're really missing in the preparation of young adults joining the workforce are fundamental social skills and digital literacy. So I really want to encourage everyone to look out for opportunities to train those social skills, even now in online sessions, in any courses that are available, because this is the most and biggest hindrance that we hear from the HR management in companies. People are not, their social skills, their executive functions are not equipped and well prepared for the workplace of the 21st century. And I think most parents are not in the place to do this. So what we do at Sandra Foundation, a non-profit foundation, we are collaborating with many organizations to prepare so-called life skill academy sessions. All of those sessions are free of charge. And those sessions are aimed at equipping young adults of determination to attain those skills online and in person. So that's what we do at Sandra Foundation. I just want to pinpoint that's really necessary that we encourage parents to support the students.
Yeah, and it's some of those workshops they're really amazing. They're all free, and which makes us just universally accessible for people of determination. So I can share the information for those in our forum email as well. Thank you very much, Nada. Okay, everyone, if anyone does have any other questions, you can pop either myself or Susie a mail, respond to our forum emails. If you would like to be added to the forum email, please do pop me an email. I've put my email in the chat. Thank you so much, Sandra, for an informative session. We got a lot of useful information there. It was very valuable. Thank you. And if anybody else would like to come and present with us, please do so. If you want to talk, like Rami, for example, if you wanted to talk about your project in more depth and share your information about it, that would be awesome, because these are the kind of things people want to hear about.
Sure.
Yeah, super, super.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, and we will see you, inshallah, in 2 weeks' time.